Today's discussion will cover growth and infrastructure, law enforcement, recreation projects, and other top priorities for the city. We'll hear from Mayor Toms, along with Police Chief John Wagner, Jared Renaud, Director of Parks and Recreation. Please join me in welcoming the guest, as the mayor is now on the stage.
Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. I'm going to offer you a point of privilege and let you make some opening remarks if you'd like.
Yeah, first I would like to say thanks to, and it was mentioned, this crowd that's out here, and it's out here every time we have exit issues, and it's exciting to see this size of crowd come out. I just want to thank the Robbins Regional Chamber of Commerce under your leadership, April, and the staff that you have that is bar none the best there is. And so we just want to thank you for putting this together and continuing the growth of this. It's really exciting for the business community and the community leaders to get together and share ideas and let each other know what's going on. And then in that time too, we may hear of a need or two that we can assist each other with. I want to thank the cities that are here, the other cities that are in Houston County, and the way that we all work together so well. And I thank you for your mentorship over the last 5 years, and also the participation that we have with each other. We're all led by, and everybody knows that, I say it only partly in jest, we're led by the chairman, Chairman Tommy Stonecker, and his leadership has been incredible to this county for so many years. And I just thank you, sir, for your leadership, and the other commissioners here in Houston County. You set a good example for us, and you work so well with us, and we thank you for that. We're also have an incredible group of state representatives. We have Representative Heath Clark here with us this morning. I don't see anybody else, but we have great representation at a state level, so we are very blessed in this community. And then we also have the best school system and the school board and the school superintendent if there is, not just in the state, but anywhere. So I just want to say how blessed we are to have the school system and the school board and the school leadership that we have here in Houston County. Robbins Air Force Base, other than the fact that they currently hold the Robbins Cup, are incredible. We're going to try to do something about that later on, but probably to no avail, I admit. So I just want to say what a blessing it is for me to have relationships with the leadership on the base, General Kubenick and Colonel Drew and all the other leadership. The only thing that disappoints me to some degree today about the base leadership is that Vice Commander Katrina Stevens chose Hawaii over this event, and that's disturbing on so many levels. And then if you're a city employee for the city of Warner Robins, would you please just stand? Because we can all, as leaders, we can all take the credit if we want to, but these are some of the folks that actually get the job done. So I just want to thank, and if y'all don't mind, thank you so much to all our city employees. And I know they were mentioned, but if the city councilmen that are here, would y'all please just stand up too and let them see you. Thank you for coming out today. Thank y'all so much for being here. And thank you all for being here, and let's do this.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's always a treat. So often these events are referred to as sort of the state of the county, the state of healthcare, the state of the city. What would you as mayor say the state of the city of Warner Robins is right now?
I'd say it's well. And I know with some of the things that have happened, that may seem a little bit surprising, but the state of the city of Warner Robins is actually really well. We're doing well. We got a lot of things going on that are of a positive nature. And we just need to focus on the positives and move forward with the things that we're doing. We have great leadership. We have a lot of pollen in the air. We just got to deal with it. When you're ADD, you got to deal with what's in front of you, right? So that happens. And so we got, our department directors and the people that work for them are incredible, and there's so much going on that we need to try to find a way to just focus on the positive, deal with the things that are out there that need to be dealt with, but move forward, because the state, we're good financially. We'll have some of that coming out when we get into the budget season, but there's a lot going on. Obviously, the growth in Warner Robins, which I know you're going to talk a little bit more about later or ask about later, is is pretty phenomenal right now. The SPLOST money is coming in at a really good pace, and so we're all of us in the House and County are able to make use of those dollars. And you know, it gets a little bit confusing sometimes when you know, the public, especially in the media and the all-knowing social media, wants to tell you, you know, that you're spending money unwisely and that kind of stuff. But we're spending money through the SPLOST in the ways that the people ask us to spend that money. And so I just want to make sure that people are clear on that, is that a lot of the projects that we're doing, and a lot with Paris Construction's help, we're getting a lot done for the city of Warner Robins. It's needed to be done for 40 years, and we're getting it done, and it's exciting to be a part of that. So when you look out at Warner Robins, if you focus on the positives that's happening, you know, I mean, we're bringing in new industry, we're bringing in things that are making a difference for people in Warner Robins, and some of the other things we're going to talk about later will highlight some of that too. So I think the state of Warner Robins is good, and I think we need to focus on the positives that's happened here in this city with all the partnerships that we have, because we're doing well.
That's good advice, not only for the city, but in business and in life. If you focus on the positive, the negatives are gonna come. You're gonna have to deal with them. But I appreciate that, encouragement this morning. So speaking of positives, just a few weeks ago, week and a half ago, the city had a workshop, a work session, where council and department heads talked about, the future of the city. You talked about growth and infrastructure. You talked about law enforcement, succession planning. Can you kind of give us some of the highlights of that and kind of what your biggest takeaways were from that meeting?
Yeah, I think that was a great meeting. Thought we all got a chance to have some input in that. Obviously, in a one-day meeting, you're not going to cover everything, and so there were some things that later on we wish we would have talked about, and we're going to get to those things down the road. But we know, obviously, every department director has needs, and so again, if you look at just the needs they have and how can we get those needs in place, then there's a lot left to do. But then when you talk about the good things that are happening in each department, there's so much good happening that it makes it worth the effort of trying to find ways to get the needs that they have. Also, what we find is that every department director has wants, and just like every person, everybody, every team has wants, and so we have to try to find a way to sort out the wants and the needs. We have needs. Obviously, we have needs in law enforcement, and those are, when you look around at law enforcement throughout the nation, it's urgent that we find a way to bring on more law enforcement officers. We have done that recently. In fact, just Monday night, we were able to introduce 4 new police officers that I swore in last week, and so that's an exciting trend that we hope continues. Chief Wagner's doing some incredible things, meeting with some people, trying to recruit better. But when you look around at the state and people are raising salaries for law enforcement officers, you either got to get serious or you got to realize that you're not going to catch up and you're going to always be behind. So there's things that we got to look at that are a little bit uncomfortable from an elected positions point of view. One of those is looking at the millage rate. Can we do what we need to do in the city of Warner Robins, especially as far as our public safety, which is not just police and fire, but public works, and those areas are a huge part of our overall public safety. So we have to look at all of that, and what are the best ways that we can do, and what are the options available for us to put together so that we can answer those needs. We've talked about so long about our pay and our benefits package. It really is good. It did me well for a 27-year career. But you always want more, and when they're able to see more, over on the other side of the hill where the grass is greener, then you gotta compete. And as Chief Wagner said in a meeting not long ago, everybody is competing for the same small pool of people that are even interested in being in law enforcement. And I can assure you that group of people is a whole lot smaller than it used to be. Even in the fire service, when I came on the fire department in 1985, there was about 110, 120 people trying out for 6 positions. Now you have one, and for the fire department it's good because you have 30 or 40 people trying out, but a whole lot less than used to be. Now you have an assessment in the police department, you might have 5 to 10 people show up to try out for 10 positions. And then you have half of those get through, and then half of those get through the next process. And so It's a huge uphill battle when it comes to hiring law enforcement officers. But that's some of the things we talked about in the work session. We had a great meeting, and I think we came out of there with an intention to look at the positives of what's going on, look at the needs, and figure out ways to meet those needs.
Well, along those lines, and back to your comment about social media and their
I mentioned
all
social-
knowing, maybe,
I did, okay.
perhaps, yeah. One of the biggest comment on social media was about the rates of the millage rate, and I think so many times, because that feels personal for property owners and that. Can you give us a little history, because I think many people may not know how long it's been since the millage rate was increased, and kind of where we stand with our surrounding communities?
Yeah, I actually look back to 2000, and I think if you look back even further than that, it's even different. So the last time that the millage rate was increased was prior to 2000, because since 2000 it's consistently gone down, or either over the last number of years it's stayed the same, but it's gone down. And I think that's one of the things that, I mean, certainly there's arguments on both sides, but we had a time when the goal was to get the millage rate down under 10. It's there, it's been there for a long time, and we haven't been able to keep up with the demands of the city with the millage rate being as low as it is. So listen, I'm not running for office right now, and it's easy for me to say, but it's hard politically to make the comments that you gotta raise the millage rate. But the truth of the matter is if we want the safe community that everybody says we want, we have to at least take a look at that option. There are things being done within every department, and I want to say that as it's been talked about over the last few years. And one of the things you're going to see as we get into the budget season is that every department director has done a great job this year in tightening the belt and saving money where they could. Their concern is always this, though: I saved money this year. Are you going to make me pay for that next year and not give me the same amount of money? And most of y'all know what I'm talking about, right? They don't want to save money. They want to use it all because they want it next year. But they've done such a great job in tightening the belt that I think we need to make sure that they get the amount of money they need and ask them again to take care of it. And our department directors this year have done an outstanding job of making sure that they spend money wisely. And that's been very encouraging to see. And so also we need to make sure that the money that they saved, we don't just put it somewhere, but we put it somewhere where it can be useful later. So I think they've done a great job. I think those are some of the areas that we can look at as well, with a balance of any possible millage rate increase combined with tightening the belt, making sure we're saving money in every area possible.
Very good. So much like this room and the attendance that's been mentioned by a couple of you at this event, council meetings, if you've been to a council meeting lately, the attendance continues to increase. This past week it was a standing room only crowd. Many of them were there to talk about an issue that ended up getting a work session built in. So I wanted to give you an opportunity. There's an update on the work session for the Perkins Field discussion, just to share what that timeline is.
Well, there should be an announcement coming out on that soon. I think I put out to council, and I won't mention it, but I think the possible date was in the next couple of weeks. And I haven't heard back from them yet on how that works out. When you're talking about meeting with, so many people and you're picking a different night than what you're used to meeting, it's a little hard to put together all those dynamics, but we decided that it was best to put together a public hearing to get the ideas out there. And I will tell you this, is that that's one of those topics that I really believe on the Perkins Field project that we need to have that. We need to have a public hearing, because there are certainly pros and cons. And I personally have looked at it one way and changed my mind and looked at it the other way. I heard from a lot of the citizens that were opposed to it, and I thought it was a great idea that we educate them. And once you educate them and give them the real aspects of a project, if they're still opposed to it, then they're still opposed to it. But there are a lot of positives to this project that I think people should take a look at before they make a decision. And so I'm very glad that we decided to have a public hearing on this, because I think this will answer a lot of the questions either, and then people can still make their own mind.
Well, and I wanted to say that, as a chamber, we certainly appreciate you offering that public forum. We think informed and inclusive decision-making is critical to growing communities, because sometimes the best idea may not be in the room. So I wanted to thank you for that. But I also wanted to bring to life, because there is an opportunity. What is the best way for people to communicate their desires, their wants, whether it's about a particular project or just general feedback to council, to the ones that represent them? What do you recommend is the best way for people to do that, as opposed to or in addition to speaking up at council meetings?
Yeah, I think that, and I'm not trying to discourage people from speaking up at a council meeting at all, but I think that sometimes that particular mode of communication gets kind of lost at the end of a meeting when you've dealt with business and you're ready to move on, because every one of us that are in that meeting have had, we've had a long day. It's at the end of the day, and I think that sometimes that gets lost in translation. So I think for me, I prefer an email correspondence, a question to either me, which all of our email addresses can be found on our website, or personally me to my office, so that we can get it into the right hands. And a lot of times a question or a concern that a citizen has can be channeled from a council member or from me or my office to the right department, and once they go that route, then they get the answer they need. Because I can tell you that every one of my department directors in their given department are a whole lot more informed about the needs of the citizens within their department than I am, except for fire. I know that one pretty well, but sorry, Chief. I don't know if he's here, but I know that one pretty well. But other than that, I think that's the best way to do it, is through email correspondence. And let them funnel them, or of course you can always call City Hall. Sure. And my office can, any of the people in my office can send you to the right person to get your answer.
Wonderful. Well, we don't have one of these discussions without law enforcement being a topic of discussion. I'd like to ask Chief Wagner, Acting Chief of the Warner Robins Police Department, to come join us on the stage at this time. And Chief, I've got some questions for you, and Mr. Mayor, if there's anything you want to piggyback on his responses, we welcome that at this time. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate you coming out. Warner Robins PD has been in the news a lot lately from apparently seemingly sudden leadership changes to apprehending suspects and dealing with other activities in the community. Can you share with us a little bit about the state of the police department? How are things, and what are your top priorities right now as acting police chief?
Sure. I can first off say that the Warner Robins Police Department is great. I've worked there for 27 years and absolutely love it. It's a wonderful little police department. We are built to continue on, just like the military, paramilitary, as far as the rank structure and things that go. So as one person leaves, another one's able to step in. So we are business as usual. Chief Evans left some great bones in the police department, and we'll continue on with that. Kind of straying off the subject a little bit, just a little bit about myself. As typical with an Air Force town, my family was drawn to Robins Air Force Base with my grandfather after World War II. They made it here to Robins, and I was actually born at Rainey Air Force Base in Puerto Rico. So family came back here to Warner Robins. Graduated from Sacred Heart School here. Henrietta McIntyre, late Henrietta McIntyre, the mayor, she kept me on the straight and narrow as well through Sacred Heart. But I was graduated from Northside High School, Macon College. After a story I told at our meeting, department head meeting, was the fact that after I graduated from Northside High School, everybody went on their senior trip. Well, I did too. I went to Paris, Island, South Carolina. So I was a Marine Corps reservist. I went to college, graduated Macon Junior College and then Georgia College. My last quarter of college, I did an internship with the Warner Robins Police Department. But as I was doing my internship, I was getting ready to set up for it, and the Persian Gulf War started up. So my unit was called up to go to the Persian Gulf, and this will make my Air Force friends kind of cringe, but I was a Stinger gunner in the Marine Corps. But went ahead and served that. They held my internship position open for my last quarter, then came back, and I was hired on during my internship. So I can honestly say then, like yesterday, we're at Fort Valley State College, and there was a criminal justice expo and internship program, and we were out there, and I was able to speak truthfully with all these students that were coming by saying, hey, I started in your shoes and know exactly, how it went through, and look where I'm at now. So, I have a wonderful wife. She's worked 27 years with House Medical Center, and my son is 16 years old, and he goes to Mount Sales. Family's still here in Morocco. So, it's just a little snippet about myself, family-wise. As far as the police department goes, I worked in the patrol unit, traffic unit, stop team, was a detective, worked as a sergeant in investigations, and then a lieutenant, then was named major, and then assistant chief. So I've been able to see a little bit of everything, and traffic is kind of in my heart. I've always enjoyed going to accident scenes and be able to figure out what exactly happened before I was able to talk to the people. So this now kind of segues to where we're at now. I do believe blue lights are a deterrent for crime. So what I did do is we have a small traffic unit. We are going to build that. So I went ahead and added another person into traffic, which is good because unfortunately we had two sad accidents just back to back where we had fatalities. One on Russell Parkway where we lost an elderly female, and then the pedestrian accident of the road here. So those do take a lot of resources to work. So we're working on those. But back to what I was saying with the blue lights, I do believe that we need to be proactive and get out there and stop people. The blue lights are a deterrent to crime. So we want to make sure that we're being visible with that. We have seen other departments where in the police car we all have all kinds of little neat lights in there, strobe lights, and we have a light it's called a cruise light. And basically what that is, it's a light that hits and it just stays blue all the time. Well, a lot of people say, I don't see police in my neighborhoods, or I don't see people or see officers in the shopping centers when at night riding through. So I promise you we are there. But Warner Robins is very, very big. It's 37 square miles. So what we are going to do is we're going to hit that blue light as we're traveling through the neighborhoods and let people, if they ever happen to look outside and see the police car coming by with that blue light on, to let you know that, hey, we are here and we're looking out for you. The same in the shopping centers. So we want you to know that we are out and about. We've had a recent spate of burglaries. I think we hit 9-10 commercial burglaries, either on Rock or Russell Parkway. I really have to say that some good old-fashioned police work really works. Between our patrol officers, investigations, forensics, and our specialty units, we were able to get most of those solved and can probably connect some of the other ones to it. So that was I'm very proud that they jumped on that immediately, because that's a concern for the citizens. Speaking of social media, sometimes we find out, or I find out about calls before the officers ever get there. So and I make a call to supervisors like, I don't know, I'm still on my way. So it's very important to people to know that we're out there, we're really taking their concerns seriously, and we're working very, very hard. The other night we had some gentlemen get up and speak about the subway burglary. It was an aggravated assault where the employee was shot at right across the street from City Hall. First off, that looks terrible. That just looks terrible. But we jumped on that immediately, and we're making very good headway in that case. So I hope to have some good information as far as that goes as well. But I just want you to know that we're working extremely hard on things. And I will have to give props also to, we had the department head meeting with the mayor and council, and I was the rookie. I'll admit that. I still have the yellow stripes in the back of my car. And wow, I was extremely impressed about how helpful everyone was. There was no bickering. It was, what can I do for you? Ask me for your help. Those type of things. That was kind of the key. The neat thing that we saw when we split up in the groups is, sure you have your own departments and you have your needs. I'm past my wants. So the police department is at a need, no doubt. And what was really neat is we broke into two groups, and we put on the board of what you really need, the first 24 months, and the second 24 months, and just what you just don't even worry about. And what was really neat to me is the group that was not law enforcement, which was me specifically, on the other side of the room, put my needs up top. And that spoke a lot for the department heads and the mayor and council that was in those areas. That shows that they care, and it wasn't just lip service. So I'm really impressed.
That's awesome. Can you share, you mentioned the needs, we've talked about the officer shortage and the challenge for recruiting. Can you share a little bit briefly about what's being done to curb that, and then how, if anything, we as a community can help with that effort?
Right. Recruitment and retention. That's not a Warner Robins problem, it's not a Houston County problem, it's a national problem. And it is true, like the mayor said, when we were at Fort Riley State yesterday, a lieutenant that was the state patrol, she used to be here at the Perry Post. She came over to me, she said, they had just come back from New York from a recruiting trip up there at a very large criminal justice expo. And here you have Georgia State Patrol in New York, and she was seeing departments from Portland, Oregon, Dallas, Texas. So, you know, it's all over, and we understand that. But, you know, with all the departments here in the county and extending out, we're all friends, we all work together, we all realize that crime doesn't know jurisdictions. But you still have to work your crime within your jurisdiction, you have to have people to do that. So you have to fashion your department to where it looks better, and because you're in competition for everybody. I mean, let's face it, and we just had a thing with Dunwoody PD. You know, they put out, they had a good salary, and they're paying 100% health, 100% retirement. I mean, just throwing all these different things out, and you have to really weigh where you're at. City of Warner Robins has great benefits, no doubt, and it really does. But we asked the newest officers that just come on, what do you look at when you were looking for a police department? And we did find that they definitely use social media. That is a given. So they have to look shiny. And they do look at benefits, and they do look at your incentive programs. And of course, pay is a part of it. So those are different things that we need to work on. And I presented some things in our meeting, kind of like the wish list of everything that we do, but there are things that I know we have to take in small steps, and I'm going to feed to the mayor and council those small steps of things that we can do through a referral program or through incentives that can separate us from other departments, because we do need people. The city of Warner Robins is large, is a wonderful city. The officers are amazing, but you do get tired, and we just have to make sure that when you get tired, you get, sometimes you make bad decisions. And in law enforcement, you can't make a bad decision, because the whole point of it is at the end of the day to go home safely, go home to your family. And I believe the mayor and council and the department heads, we're gonna make that happen, and we're gonna make things happen to make sure that the police department of Robbins will be able to rise above and become even more marketable.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate your leadership at the Chamber. We've had the opportunity to work with you from a number of years on various community initiatives, and we know you're going to continue to do great things. I'm going to switch gears back to you, Mr. Mayor, in line of the time we have left. So thank you, Chief. Yes. So a lot of the challenges that we talked about with Chief Wagner are a result of growth. And we've talked about the growth. I want you to, if you can, address some of the growth in the city of Warner Robins from a numbers standpoint, but also how the city is continuing to meet the challenges of a growing community.
Yeah, it's a challenge, obviously, to meet, and that's what you just asked, so I'll answer the question. How about that? Is it, you know, and Chairman Stonker has said it very well in interviews before, which are few and far between compared to me, but he said how quickly Bon Air area is growing. And of course, what a lot of people don't understand about the Bon Air area is that a lot of it is Warner Robins, but a lot of it's not. And we service, utility-wise, we service a lot of it, all of it that is in the city of Warner Robins, and some of it is not. And one example is the Publix shopping center out there. That was an incredible partnership with Housing County that the city of Warner Robins has, and we service that area. We actually service it with sewer and with fire service, and we came up with a tax sharing plan that's gonna work well for us in the future. And in fact, we've seen some benefits from that already. So I just want to again say thanks to Housing County leadership for allowing us to partner with you on that, because we're seeing a lot of growth in that area. Now, what that's gonna do, and to some people's delight and to some dismay, is it's gonna cause growth out in that area, and it's gonna happen rapidly, in my opinion. And I think before long, we're gonna be able to annex a lot of that area out there that we already service, which will give us the added benefit of having new citizens, but it will give us the challenge of having more growth and having to service all those areas with all of our services, and not just some of them. And then also you have, and this is a real romantic subject to talk about, but sewer availability. I mean, and I could, look, I'll stay on, I'll focus, because I could go way off on that one, but, we're getting that capacity in the Bon Air area, so we're having to look at some pretty costly upgrades in that area to continue the growth that's taking place out there. And it's good growth, and it's exciting growth, and so we don't want to be able to have to be able to say, no, we can't grow anymore in that area, because we're having to do very little in that area to grow, and so it's just gonna happen. And then new partnerships that we have going out with, Pure Flavor and the areas out in Warner Robins that is going to be Warner Robins, or either is Warner Robins in Peach County, out off of Russell Parkway and the 247 connector. It's growing out there, and it's gonna, once that starts in a certain area out there, it's gonna really take off and grow out that way too. And we're looking at the same situation there with sewer availability, as well as, what happened 20 years ago when Mayor Walker and his team of people decided to put a Publix, no doubt, out at Lake Joy in 96, and that area out there is growing, and it's thanks to everybody in Housing County, everybody that has ever shopped in Housing County, everybody that participated in the SPLOST, that gave us the ability to assist the state in the 96 project out there. It's just growing, and we as elected officials get to take credit for it, but we're really not doing it. Stay with me, y'all. And so that's happening, but the downside to it is you've got to invest in the potential of more growth coming. And so we're looking at some serious ways to expand the sewer availability in that area, expand the size of pipes and all that stuff that Monty Walters is the expert in, and is giving us ways. Our gas, we're in 2 different gas companies, and it's growing, everywhere. The school board is having to grow. New schools coming before too awfully long, and so it's just growing. And I think what we're trying to do as a leadership team is in the earlier years of Warner Robins' growth, it grew so fast, it grew so rapidly that it was hard to control. And so I think now we're trying to plan better, and we're trying to grow, planned growth, instead of just like it did by nature before. It just took off and went. So I think we're trying to do that, and there's some areas that are just growing. The areas that are not growing naturally, the north side of town, we are investing dollars that the voters ask us to spend in those areas with the recreation projects that we have going on the north side of town that we think are going to make a big difference, not just in our parks and recreations, but in our economic development as well. And so I think we're going to see it's just certain areas are growing naturally, and certain areas are going to need some help in growing, but we think we can do both.
Awesome. Well, you just teed me up for our next question, so.
I knew that.
Perhaps. So one of the most visible signs of growth in our community is recreation and the completion of a number of projects that are underway and beginning to be completed. So I want to ask Jared, behind the pole here, if he'll come on up at this time, and we're going to cue up a video that will play while we're talking to you. But Jared is the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Warner Robins. He's been in the position for a few years now, and it's exciting to have you with us today, so thank you for being here. Anything new to report? I mean, every time we have you here, recreation projects are underway, which is a good thing, but can you give us an update and an overview on your current scope of work as the video plays?
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to humbly say thank you for allowing me to be here today. It's been a pleasure to meet a lot of y'all, and over the last 3 years, to be able to grow the city in the parks and recreation, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the mayor and council's support and many of the employees from the city of Warner Robins, but also for the community leaders. So I just want to first off say thank you for that. And also, hasn't been mentioned today, but with Parks and Recreation, I do want to personally thank Parrish and the work that they've done with the city of Warner Robins, and also I think JMA is here as well, Jim Edgley and Michael Turner. So thank y'all for what y'all have done from an architect standpoint. But as far as an update for Parks and Rec, we got 3 major projects going on right now, and one that's going to be completed at the end of April will be Dolores Tolliver Park, which is also known as the Sewell Circle area. We have built a gymnasium over there, also with a volleyball court. We also have a police precinct, so we're excited about that and expanding that area. And we always talk about being visible with the police department, so Chief and I have met, so we're excited about having that in the building as well. We also have the Walk at Sandy Run going on right now. That's across from Sandy Valley Church on Howson Lake Road. It's an awesome passive park. It's 20 acres, about 5 acres of that has been disturbed for just a passive area, and also have a boardwalk going through there. And last but not least, what I call the Taj Mahal, what everybody's been waiting on, I guess, probably for 20 years now, is the sports complex, which is the North Howson complex. As you can see the video, JMA has done an amazing job at of building this thing and designing it. It's going to have 4 courts inside under one roof, have a walking track upstairs, 8 volleyball courts, and on the outside we'll also add an additional 4 baseball fields. So across the field at Simpson and Peavy, as you all know that, we'll be able to have now 13 baseball fields within a mile. So as the mayor said, that's not only great for Parks and Rec, but that also brings economic development. And to me, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. How can we grow as a community? And I think with Parks and Rec and the way that mayor and council are going, we're going to be able to see a complete economic boost in all areas around the city.
Awesome. Well, and you touched on it briefly, but Jared, if you will, kind of share with us briefly about the strategy for pulling all of the similar sports together and how you went about that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a few kids, 6. So as I was traveling around and watching and just observing, as I like to do, I like to take things in. I just realized that in this day and age with kids and families and grandparents, we're busy. I mean, that's just the society we live in. We want everything in an instant. So I thought that it was proper. The right thing to do was to try to put the sports in one area. And so I thought, for parents and grandparents, you got multiple kids, you can be at one facility and watch multiple games. You don't have to have brothers and sisters, grandparents to travel around and do those things. So I think it was an important strategy to put groups together so we can be in one facility.
I love it. Thank you. This question is actually for both of you and came from our members when we asked for them to submit questions ahead of time. So we often are asked, and I know you guys feel this question often, about passive parks and a walkable downtown. Can you share anything about the future or vision or any current projects that are underway to support those efforts?
I'll go first. Let's talk about passive parks. I do want to remind everybody when we talk about passive, we are building a lot of buildings, we're doing a lot of those things, but we've done passive too. And I know going on my 3rd year, when the Walk at Sandy Run is open in the next few months, this will be our 3rd passive park that we've had ribbon cuttings on in 3 years. So from a passive park standpoint, I think we're doing that. So just remind people that we do have the Wellston Park, the dog park out there. We have Walker's Pond, and Wellston Trail. We continue to try to improve on Wellston Trail as that walks through. So I think that the vision is that we will continue to implement and put passive parks where we can. But I'm excited at the walk at Sandy Run. Please drive by there and check that project out. It's amazing. But I think that as we grow as a city, that we will continue to find areas to put passive parks.
And for me, I think, you know, the easy question is the passive park. So you took the easy one, thank you. And you got it on an ugly top, but that's, but it's north side, I know, but if you're doing it for the War Eagles, that's wrong. Although they're in the Final Four, so I still can't say it, but I hope they win, but I can't say that other thing. Is it the walkability? I think that's a question that it's difficult to answer in the city of Warner Robins because we don't have an established downtown area that people want to go to now and walk around. The question's been asked for many, many years. Will we ever have that kind of downtown? And my answer has become, I do not know. We're going to try. I mean, we're going to keep trying, and because we just don't quit. But I don't. Hopefully so. But how do you have a walkable town when you spread as quickly as we did over the last 20 years? I came to work for the city of Warner Robins in 1985. It was about 15 or 16 square miles, and now it's 37 square miles, as Chief Wagner said. And we are in so many different areas on a large scale, so it's difficult for us to establish one place that people want walkability. So it's a challenge. It really is a challenge that I don't know that we will ever have a real answer to. But we're gonna try, and I think if we look at the downtown projects that are on the table right now, is that the answer? And I think that's why we need to have a meeting so that we can determine if that's a good answer. And it very well could be for a start to a downtown area. And so I don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater in that idea. I just think we need to have more discussion on it to decide if this is the way forward for a walkable, usable, friendly downtown. But everything comes into play when you talk about walkability in an area that you establish as downtown. And that's the one thing I want to say about the employees and the departments. And I think for the most part we do it well here in Houston County and even Middle Georgia, because I know some of us are in here today are from outside of the Houston County area. So thank you all for coming here and participating in this, because this is becoming essential to our survival as a society in Middle Georgia, is that we learn how to work together. But I can say from personal experience and from what I watch within each one of our departments in this, and everybody's wondering who Jared is, because most people in here know him as Jar. So I call him Jar, but what Jar talks about is that when he needs help in Parks and Recreations, he knows that he can call Monty, or he knows that he can call Craig Woodyard or Sherry Wyndham, and he knows that he can call any of our department directors, and they're going to be there to help. And it makes the overall project work better because they work together. And so I think that that's a way for us all to make each one of our communities better. Warner Robins is a great place to live. It's a great place to work. We have the best industrial complex in the world right here with us. And we all work together so well, except for on April 26th, we're going to be our enemies on that day. That's the Robbins Cup golf tournament, if you don't know. And I love General Kubinick, but I am going to be out to get him that day, and Colonel Curry as well. So, and so other than that, we all get along so well, and I think we need to learn how to work together to make everybody better, not just each one of us better. So I don't know, some of y'all have the answers to better walkability. Share those with us, because we want to be better all the time.
Fair enough. Real quick, I'd like to ask if you have questions that you've jotted down, if you will hold those up. The chamber staff is positioned at the corners. They'll come pick those up. As we transition, Chief, I'm going to ask you to come take my seat. Mr. Mayor, as we transition, I'd like for you to just share, you're in your second term now, as mayor of the city of Warner Robins. What is your vision for the next 10 to 20 years? Where do you see us?
I see us answering some of the questions that we're currently answering. We're already answering those questions, bringing people to our community, to stay here, to visit here. We are a very, in Middle Georgia, we're an incredibly unique community. We are just, and I mean this with all love, we are different. We're a different kind of people here, right? We're not like Atlanta. We're not like some other areas in the country. So we're just different, and we are in the process of finding ways with our recreation, with our parks and recreation, with our economic development. We're finding ways to bring people here to visit, and when they come here and visit, how many of you know that they're going to like it here? And when they like it here, guess what? They're going to spend more money here. And when they spend more money here, we have ways to do the things that we need to do in the future. So my vision for the next 10 years is for us to continue on the path that we are, focus on the positive things that we're doing, and work together to get them done.
Wonderful, thank you. Audience, you are now entering into the bonus round of this session. We understand that some of you may need to leave, but I got more questions than I've probably ever had, and I think we're gonna make time to answer as many of them as we can. Y'all good with that? Everybody good? Okay. Jar, this first question is for you. You mentioned basketball and baseball specifically. Are there any plans in the future for soccer, lacrosse, indoor swimming?
Yes, so one of the good things that we did, along with Parrish and Bryan Engineering and JMA, is that we designed 4 football fields. And I know we say football, but all those legal size that we can play those other sports on. So Tanner Park Sports Complex will be able to accommodate those sports.
Wonderful. Mr. Mayor, I'll give this one to you. Since this was such a hot topic during the last election, where is Mayor and Council on filling the position of a city administrator or COO? Is that discussion still active?
Yeah, it's active. It's we're looking at a company that we already, and this is fresh out of the box. We're looking at a company that we already have a contract with to help us move forward with that idea. If it works for us or if it doesn't, what is the best way to establish that? So we're looking. Like I said, it's not any, as far as right now, it's not any extra money spent. It's a company that we already do business with that's going to help us walk through that process to see if that's really what we want, if that's what we need, and if we do it, how can we best implement that to benefit us all.
Very good. Mr. Mayor, you and I touched on this subject, but this question asks for a little bit deeper dive. What is the city's plan to address our aging water and sewer systems, and how will that be paid for?
Yeah, well, we have a good amount of money in our utility in our utility accounts. We do well. We have plans, and I'm gonna tell y'all now. When I sometimes say that we have the best of this or the best of that, this is the one right here that by far meets that criteria. And I don't mean it as a slight to anybody because you're all wonderful. It depends on who I'm talking to at the time. But Monty Walters is the best utility department director ever anywhere. This is, as far as utilities and everything to do with it, this guy has more knowledge than any of us will ever be able to understand. And so Monty has a plan to move forward. We have funds to do it. We have funding sources to do it. But if we don't do it, we're going to stop. And that's what we can't afford to do in this community, is if we don't implement some of the plans that Monty Walters and his department has to increase our capacity in certain areas, we're going to have to tell people, no, we can't grow anymore. And we don't want to reach that area. We don't want to reach that point in time. And so we need to work with Monty and his department on some of these plans to get that done. Very good.
I need to read this first to figure out what I'm saying. The city started at the railroad tracks and Robins Air Force Base. That's a statement. What type of investment and focus is leadership putting there while also looking at the expansion of other areas? So I guess the balance of the old and the new, so reinvesting in, I hope I'm interpreting this.
Well, it's one of those areas. Certainly we've had a study done on that area and how we can, address the issues such as blight and the need for upkeep in those areas. Ms. Sherry Wyndham back here, the Department Director of Community Development, has done a phenomenal job of investing funds into some of those areas. So we've spent millions of dollars in that area already. I think a year or so ago we talked about, is there a better way to do it, because you don't want to just throw money at a problem, so you want to do it the best way. And so we have worked with the group to find the best way to address those issues. So and then we need private investors to come into those areas. Certainly with the implementation of the TAD, which is the tax allocation district in that area, we can work with you through our economic development department, through the state, and we can get ways for you to invest in those areas. But along Armed Forces Boulevard, right across the street from the base, we need private investors to come in there and say, hey, we want to be involved in what's happening downtown here. We want to do that along the corridor, Watson Boulevard corridor. We need you to come to us and say, hey, we want to be involved. We want to be at the table when it comes to investing and reinvigorating that part of town. We want to be there at the table. So that's the way to do it, is with public participation, with what we have, but also with private investors that want to get involved and make a difference in that area of town.
Okay, perfect. I think these last two questions are both for you, Mr. Mayor. So you mentioned the TAD. What is the future and focus of the Development Authority of Warner Robins?
Well, I think there's a lot of good things going on in the development of authority in Warner Robins. Certainly, again, it's important to understand that we're talking about an area that is huge now. We're not just a little town next to Robins Air Force Base anymore. Robins Air Force Base is always going to be an integral part of who we are, and we never want that to change. But Warner Robins is the 11th largest city in the state of Georgia now, and so we're not just some small little town. We're a big city, and we're actually in 2 counties, and a lot of people don't understand that. So we've got a lot of activity going on in economic development, and it's a big deal. It's a big area. There's companies now that are coming to the table to us that we've never seen the likes of before. So it's exciting, and I have absolutely no idea if I'm even coming close to answering your question, because when I start talking, it just starts falling out. So, but I get excited about the growth, and I get excited about the economic development that is actually taking place in Warner Robins. And I know for all of us, it's exciting to be a part of that. And there again, we need to all work together, as we have in conjunction with Houston County, and we now have in conjunction with Peach County, to make something that can't work, find a way to make it work. And that's what we've been successful at in the last couple of years, to make things really happen around here.
Perfect. Last question has to do with economic development, also beautification. What is the likelihood, and are there any future plans for corridor improvement or?
Yeah. Oh no, there's a very good likelihood of that. In fact, there's monies available through the state, and we are already in the process of making that happen. So when you look at the corridor, there's a lot of changes that could take place along that Watson Boulevard corridor that would really make it a more attractive area on the surface, but would also make it more attractive, or it's going to make it more attractive for private investors to come in and say, hey, we want to be a part of that. So in the grand scheme of things, that's all part of it, is making it more attractive aesthetically, so that people want to come and be involved in it. That's already in the works.
Awesome. Please join me in thanking our panel for their
If I could, real quick, I want to say this, that in my 5 years of being mayor, and I just want one minute. In my 5 years of being mayor, I've met a lot of leadership from the base, and this is not one of those things. I think, again, no offense to any of the leadership here on the base, but I think one of the most incredibly intelligent people I've ever met actually intimidated me when I first met him, because he just comes across as being so smart. You can tell he's thinking. He won't be here very much longer. Not on Earth. Here at Robins. I think he's going to be on Earth a long time, but he won't be here very much longer. So I just want to take this opportunity to say that though his intelligence intimidated me when he first got here, Colonel Drew, your friendship has meant so much to me over the last couple of years, and I thank you for the job you've done at Robins Air Force Base and the way that you have interacted with our community. You have made a difference here in Warner Robins, Houston County, and Middle Georgia, and I just want to thank you for your service to our community, to our base, and to our nation. So thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you for sharing that, well deserved, and I think that sentiment is shared by all of us. You will certainly be missed, and I hope in the future there is an opportunity for us to see you again, here in Warner Robins in leadership. So with that said, I want to thank you all once again for coming. Thank all of our sponsors, for making this day and this series possible. As we mentioned earlier, the materials in front of you, please take those. If they don't apply to you or your area of business, I challenge you to give them to somebody who they will impact and help. We will be drawing at our next A's and Issues breakfast for the free website, so we are excited to offer that to one of our members. All of our upcoming programs are listed at the bottom of your agenda. We hope to see you at every single one of them. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned.